Oh man, these old controls are fantastic. They're classic, like Marlon Brando and On the Waterfront. And perfect, like Vincent Price's Scheme and House on Haunted Hill. Ah. Well, that's enough of that. Oh, I should clean up. Maybe I can put him in his drawer. Ah! Ah! Oh, this is gonna take forever. Where to start? No. Definitely no. Oh, here we go. Nintendo's got some sweet different controllers. But which one of them's the best? Cleaning can wait. Let's BlaineStorm about this. Controllers have been around since people wanted to sit over there and do something over there. First game console was Magnavox Odyssey, and kids were all like, holy crap, I can control the glowing little dot on the cathode ray tube? Most of the controllers from that first era made use of a titty twister motion to control the games. Then came the second generation, which said, no one makes a good controller? A penis. Thus the phallic age of controllers dawned with Atari and their black stick, red button reigning king, followed by a series of sticks with numpads attached to them. Nobody knows what they do. But then Nintendo came along and said, hold the phone. No, literally, hold the phone. What is this? Is this a controller or are you calling grandma long distance? Because we can't be paying to listen to her gummer dentures all night. With each new console, Nintendo has produced a new and innovative controller to go along with it. Even owning other consoles, I still feel Nintendo had the best controller designs around. But which one's the greatest? What is the best way to control your Nintendo? Let's start at the bottom. The first one that comes to mind is the NES Zapper. I know some of you are saying the light gun isn't a controller, but you're wrong. This is my BlaineStorming. I point the gun, I pull the thing, and blammo, ducks die. I control their life with my controlling device. Or clay pigeons break if you're some kind of sissy pants that doesn't want to shoot ducks. The trigger was amazing and had this awesome noise. Can you hear that? Can you hear it? Can you hear that? Yeah. Childhood. When the zapper is fired, the entire screen would turn black and the targets would turn white in the blink of an eye. If the zapper detected a dark to light change, a hit was registered. As a kid, the seizure-inducing flash always made me feel like the gun was actually shooting as we pointed wildly at the ducks trying to fly off screen in Grandma's basement. There are a handful of games besides Duck Hunt that use the zapper. But nobody plays this game. Next, the Wii Motion Controller. It wasn't the first controller that used movement. That award goes to Atari 2600's La Stick. Didn't even need batteries. Ran on a mechanical mercury core, or something like that. But this was the first time motion control was the primary input. This controller has two basic modes. The first is the mouse wand mode, where you point it to maneuver through menus or shoot stuff on the screen. And the second is the maraca mode, where you shake it and make other futile attempts to mimic the commands on screen, hoping it knows what you're doing. But it doesn't know what you're doing. Luckily, during development, someone at Nintendo remembered something. You need a control stick to play games. What I like about the nunchuck is that it adds the needed controls that most games require, while allowing your hands to rest calmly at your sides. What I don't like is the need to still use the motion control of the Wiimote and the added motion control of the nunchuck. If you thought this thing couldn't tell which way you were moving it, this thing has no idea where it's going. Plus, they're dangerous if you don't follow 38 Special's solemn 1981 warning. Hey man, what you playing? Nutshot. The N64 controller is one of the most memorable controllers I've ever had growing up. It was the first controller with an expansion port for memory cards, the Rumble Pack, and even Pokemon Transfer support. The first gamepad to have a trigger, and the first to have a third prong for your third hand. Seriously though, as a kid, this thing was highly controversial. Some people thought the designer should perform seppuku, but instead of sword, they gotta use the N64 controller. Others thought it was Controller Jesus or something. The thing had 3 different ways to hold a controller, and a 2-controller method I had no idea about until a week ago. 2 controllers, 2 toggles, 2 triggers. Lock and load. No, this still sucks. The NES controller beats the N64 for the simple reason of being simple. It was just 4 buttons and a directional pad, but it removed any sense that I was controlling Mario or Link. I was merely going left, right, or jumping. Yeah, it was a sharp rectangle that hurt your hand. Ah. And don't forget about Famicom. It's like the same controller, but the player 2 had a microphone, so you could yell at Paul's voice. Next, we have the DS XXL Home Edition. I mean the Wii U gamepad. I do enjoy the functionality of having inventories and maps available without having to pause the game, thanks to the tiny TV mounted to the inside of my controller. But the thing is so big. It's the heaviest controller with the worst battery life. I understand that it's got a screen, so it's going to eat through charge, but if you're going to plan on putting a TV in your controller, plan on putting a bigger battery in too. I do like that they finally added triggers and shoulder buttons. The toggles are nice and responsive, the buttons are all in the right place, and the touchscreen does have really good functionality in a lot of games, and it works through menus on Netflix and YouTube very well. But this thing would have been impossible if it hadn't been for some of Nintendo's earlier designs. Back when the Super Nintendo came out, minds were blown. Everyone was so shocked. Zelda went from this to this. Metroid from this to this. Mario was this, now it was this. Castlevania went from this to this. And the controller went from this thing to this. Everything got super. We got more buttons, more ergonomics, and these things. We didn't even know what these things were. The design and the button layout was so perfect. PlayStation, Dreamcast, Xbox all used a similar pattern. Most controllers since use that diamond pattern button layout. Most controllers, that is, except the GameCube. Not to be like everyone else and copy their own genius classic controller designs, the Nintendo GameCube decided to make a button layout that was based on the amount of use each button received during gameplay, which was a similar theory they had back in the N64 era. The triggers were pressure sensitive and controlling racing games was amazing. Not to mention this rubberized toggle which greatly reduced the amount of times I had to go to the emergency room for a Nintendo thumb. How great is this controller? It has been re-released solely for the latest Smash Bros. Installment. If you had told me in 2004 that I would have been purchasing a brand new Nintendo GameCube controller in the year 2015, I would have said, "F you, Gypsy, you don't know my future." But here we are in 2015, and forgive me, Gypsy, because I purchased a Nintendo GameCube controller. In my house, we used the Wavebird. This is the first successful first-party wireless controller that used a rectangular dongle to receive the signal from the controller and had multiple channels to choose from. It allowed up to 16 players or 4 GameCubes to be used in close proximity. Finally, while the Wii U gamepad is annoying to hold because of its bulk and size, the Wii U Pro Controller solves that. It uses a similar button layout to the SNES. It has nice rubberized toggles like the GameCube. It's got triggers and shoulder buttons just how a modern controller should. It's amazingly balanced and has a good smooth feel. And this charge cable is freakishly long, so in the rare instances when the battery does die, I can charge it from across the room while I sit comfortably on my couch, still playing my games. Yeah, it's a simple controller, but simple's what made Nintendo controllers great in the first place. A controller should be comfortable, not confusing. I'm crowning this one as Nintendo's greatest controller. Thanks for watching! If you like the humor you saw here, check out our other videos where we play games like Sonic Boom. And I use the Wii U Pro Controller, which is the best. But Sonic Boom's not the best.